You're listening to Mudville Sounds.
Hello?
We are sitting here with Angie Hemens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I go by Angie Hemens still for people who will know who I am. But I think, like, if you're looking up my music, I'm posting it under Angie Hemens on Spotify. So that's
definitely a good thing to be able to differentiate.
it's a confusing time.
Right. Yeah. Understandably.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we were just saying, like, you've been on the scene for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
I remember hearing about you from, like, Blackwater days.
Yeah.
So that was, like, 10 plus years ago.
I played a lot, like, original Blackwater. Because there have been quite a few, not original, I guess, but let's see. I started playing at Blackwater around the time that Carrie owned it, and like right as she was selling it to Linda. So it was like, beautiful. If you remember the eras, or if any of the listeners remember the eras.
Oh yeah. When Carrie owned that place, it was a kick. That's for sure. It was always a party.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was a kid then, though. I was like 17, so I probably didn't partake in much of the party.
Oh, well, but you were there as entertainment, right? Like, you were there playing?
Yeah, and there were some wild shows, too. Sure. Like, a lot of punk bands came through.
Sure. Who were you playing with at the time?
I was playing, like, more indie rock, like, emo stuff. I always have been. I've been a fan of punk, so I went to, like, Betty Raid's shows there and stuff like that. But I always played, like, softer stuff, so I just play as, like, Andrew Hemens, just play acoustic a lot, and then I had a band back then, and we had, like, different names. I think the one that I first started playing at Blackwater as was called Little Jeans.
Huh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So,
I don't really remember that name so much,
I don't know. I don't know if any of my band names were that, like... are that memorable, but I think everyone just remembers my name because I hung out with Mida a lot. He was definitely like my mentor in the music scene, and so
it's a good mentor to have.
Definitely, yeah.
So, speaking of Mida, were you part of the Indie Jerk
Jerk Indie, that was
Jerk
me.
Indie.
Yeah, I started Jerk Indie.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, because that was that Plea for Peace, right?
Yeah, Jerk Indie was like a few different things, but definitely at the Plea for Peace Center we did the Jerk Indie Fest, which was like probably the most well-known thing that we did as Jerk Indie. I
got you. Yeah. Okay. What, can you talk a little bit more about like what Jerk Indie was?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Jerk Indie kind of started as like a little collective among like me and my friends, and I basically built like a little website that just had all of our links on it and this was like MySpace, so it's just kind of like a way to show that who we were. Mm-hmm. And then kind of around that time I had this idea that we should get like all of our bands that were in that kind of circle we were kind of like indie rock bands. So it was like Filbert and my band at the time, which had yet another name, was called the Yankee Racers. And at that point it's kind of like the same people, and a lot of these bands shared members. Like half of Filbert was in my band, and then there's another band called Al Attack. Again, like half of the members from Filbert were also in Al Attack and also in my band. There was this band called Craft Spells, and just quite a few. I'd have to look up who were on there, but it was like more than just a regular bill of like 3 or 4 bands. There ended up being like 9 bands on the first Jerk Indie Fest. So the idea was just like, let's have a show at the Plea for Peace Center that is like a little bit bigger, a little bit more special than a regular show. And I made like little tickets and like went and like put posters all around town. And it was really nice because a lot of people actually came out to the show versus when we would normally have like a show that had like 3 or 4 bands and, just try to promote it on like MySpace or Facebook at the time. No one would come out, I feel like that was like kind of a problem around like the Plea for Peace era is like shows you had this awesome space, but there was kind of this like, there was kind of like an overwhelming amount of, like show invites on Facebook at the time, and I feel like a lot of people just got tired of the same old thing. And so the idea behind Jerk Indie Fest was to do something that like made people actually want to come and have a good time.
Sure.
And so the first Jerk Indie Fest was awesome. Like, we did it in the front room at Plea for Peace, and we filled up the entire front room, which was awesome because that didn't always happen.
Sure, yeah.
And that's kind of how Jerk Indie kicked off, and then I did a few different things under like the Jerk Indie umbrella. We did 2 other festivals over the next like couple years from that first one. And they all got like a little bit bigger and had like more people, and it was a lot of fun. And then the other things I did with Jerk Indie was create like a website where people could post shows that they could view.
Okay.
And like search for, and
so it was like a community band.
Yeah, it's kind of like
bulletin board kind of thing.
A bulletin board, exactly.
Nice.
And yeah, so there's been a few different versions of that. The most recent one I ran last year, but I'm actually in the process of rebuilding it because there were some issues with the code that I did on the first one, and I might change the name because it might be time to retire the Jerk Indie name for that website. But the idea behind it is like, it's essentially supposed to be a MySpace clone, but not MySpace as a social network, more of like all of the things that made MySpace great for bands and artists. Like when we were younger, we would be able to like go on MySpace and message like a band in Oregon and be like, hey, we're going to be on tour and coming through your town. Do you have any shows that we could jump on? And they'd be like, yeah, totally, jump on the show.
Right.
And so the idea is to like create kind of like community hubs where people can like find bands within like some town that they've never been to.
Sure.
And book a show.
You get that kind of with like Facebook and Instagram, you know? Like I've connected with a lot of bands I've never met before in that way, but this sounds more specialized.
Yeah, it's specialized, and the thing is that it's indexed by the events and the bands where like, say, like, I think Instagram is probably like the go-to app for bands right now to communicate and find each other, because so many of us are off Facebook because it just kind of like died in a lot of ways, especially for newer bands. I'm hearing that from the
younger generation. Yeah. A lot of the younger kids.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even part of the younger generation, and I felt it. But you know, the idea is that it's indexed in the same way that like MySpace search was, where you could say, "Show me all of the shows in this town, in this date range."
Right.
Whereas, or show me all of the bands in this area. You can't do that on Instagram. Like if you are going to go play a show in like Vancouver, Washington, how would you know how to find a band on using only Instagram, or even shows using only Instagram?
Yeah, if you don't have that kind of detective kind of mind,
yeah,
it's
exactly,
difficult. Yeah,
exactly. So like that was the magic, I think, behind the way MySpace was structured. Was they had like an event search page and a band search page, and you could just go and like, without knowing the band names, you could say like, you know, I'm going to be in Glendale, Arizona. Who are the bands in the area? And then you find the bands, look at their profiles. And the other thing is like Instagram's so geared towards posting images or videos that we kind of lost like band websites. Like there's no band pages anymore, so that's kind of like the things that I've been building for Jerk Indie have been like. One of
the platforms that I hear a lot about is Bandcamp.
Yeah, well, the scary thing about Bandcamp is I love Bandcamp. It's primarily like music streaming, but they just got bought out by a company earlier this year they got bought out by a company called Epic Games. Huh. And the intention was to run it as normal, and then in the past couple months, I don't remember if Epic Games is now selling it off because they couldn't make a profit of it, or if they are basically like stopping all development on it and only going into what's called maintenance mode. So they're only doing bug fixes from here on out. They're not like introducing new features or really supporting like artists in any way that's plausible. So I love Bandcamp, though. It was a really great platform when it was independent, but sometimes these businesses get bought up by like bigger businesses, and then you know, I would predict that Bandcamp might might not be as solid of a platform in like 2 or 3 years as some other ones that I know. There's other apps that kind of do what I intend to do, but I just want to try to do it myself. Sure. There's like bands in town, or even Eventbrite could do what I'm describing, but a lot of those apps, they're really targeted towards making money. And so like you go to bands in town and say like, show me events in Stockton, and it shows you events promoted by Ticketmaster in Sacramento, because that's the closest place with like a Ticketmaster venue.
I see.
And it's like, well, I kind of wanted to go to like a local show that was like in someone's backyard. Like, how do I find that? That's what I want to find.
Yeah, so, That makes way more sense. Yeah. Those are a lot of platforms that I don't use because they want to have some kind of fee attached to it. And with all the other things that we have to pay fees for, it's just another one to pile on, you know?
Yeah, like, my idea is that, like, musicians deserve a platform like Wikipedia or Mozilla or even Craigslist, like something that is not for profit, and is just a platform that doesn't have to like worry about like investors or things like that. It's like I've learned like running because I've done like a lot of web work. Like I've learned that running platforms does cost a lot of money. That was part of the issue with this original version this version of Jerk Indie that I just like took down in order to rebuild. My server costs went like super high.
Oh, wow.
And I don't do any advertising or anything like that. So I was like, okay, well, I need to like restructure the code in order to save costs. But you know, if we could if like as a community we could figure out some way to like be a lot more like communal. Sure. And build our own platform. And the other thing that I'm like really trying to get into and understand more is like how streaming platforms really work under the hood, because I'd love to build our own version of streaming into this.
Right. That would be awesome.
Like here's the problem is like little people that aren't on like any record label, we want to release to Spotify because everything's on Spotify. And so there's this kind of like ease of use thing where all the listeners are there, and so we have to publish to Spotify in order to get anyone to listen in the first place for convenience sake. But we're not making any money off of that the way that even local bands, like I remember when I was in this band called My Darling Mayday, it was like this pop punk band from back in the day. We like made demos with like 3 songs on it, and we sold them for $5. And we made enough money to keep that band going as far as like print more t-shirts, sell those, make more money, record more, you know?
Right, yeah.
And you can't do that anymore. So I kind of want to build this platform that is this like communal, not-for-profit type thing, where bands can have their own page where they could sell merch, or they could sell downloads of their songs, or maybe eventually I could build like a streaming widget into it where they could make money per stream in like a more ethical model than not SoundCloud, but Spotify and even Apple Music and Tidal are.
And these would all be things that the artists themselves would upload.
They would upload, yeah.
It's not like you have to go through a third party that takes care of the website for you.
Yeah, and that's okay. Well, that's actually the hard thing though. Is like I can code a website, but like getting people to actually use it is like pulling teeth. Yeah, because I'm not good at marketing or anything like that. So, like I have concepts and like my intention over like the years with this idea that I've kind of always dreamed of, at least ever since like MySpace kind of like crashed and burned. My plan is just keep doing it until it works. It's like, you know, if I just keep trying, it gets a little bit better every time, and it really has. Every time I improve this idea and do a little bit more people get interested. So that's kind of like the, you know, other than being a musician, that's like one of my huge passions. And that grew out of this idea of like Jerk Indie being this collective of friends that wanted to do something different and wanted to do something in Stockton too, that I feel like Stockton deserves. Like we actually have Stockton has such a robust like scene of musicians and artists.
We surely do.
But I feel like Stockton, number one, like outside of Stockton, people don't realize that. We don't always have like the best way of communicating how great everything is here. I think like podcasts like yours are perfect for this. I actually used to have a podcast too that interviewed local artists, but I got busy and stopped recording.
As happens, yeah.
But the other thing I noticed is like I lived in the Bay Area for like 7 years, and like the scene in the Bay Area kind of sucks. Like
really,
you know, it's so hard for like it's so hard for a small musician to get a gig at like a cafe or, you know, small venue. Like, the only small venue out there that gives anyone a chance is, like, Gilman. But other than that, like, even the small venues that you look up, they're like, you know, can you draw at least 50 people? it's like, well, I've never played in the Bay Area before. How can I draw 50 people?
So it's like their expectations are higher for the entertainment that they book, kind of thing.
I get that feeling when I lived out there, but I would say like the contrast is, and why I love Stockton so much is like Stockton has its problems, but I feel like there's so much inclusivity here in Stockton. Like, you know, I think back to being a little kid and just like asking Mida if I could play a show, and he just booked me on a show. You know what I mean?
Heck yeah.
And or like going to other coffee shops where like Mida didn't book at and saying like, hey, can we have a show here?
Right.
And and even within the music scene, you know, like, sure, there are sometimes bands that don't get along with each other, but there's also, you know, the barrier to entry is so much lower here, and I feel like people are supportive of people who are like learning and young bands and things like that, and that's why, I don't know, I just have such a love for Stockton and feel like the general like vibe here has been better than a lot of different places that I've lived in when I moved away from Stockton for a while, and it's what like kept me coming back, and you know, definitely a reason why I moved back to Stockton when I did.
Awesome. Yeah. No, I totally agree. Stockton has an amazing amount of talent, you know, like just visual artists as well as musicians, and we have a lot here in history-wise as well. Like, historically, we have a lot here. Yeah. And it is really sad to me when, you know, I'll talk to bands that are, like, from out of town. You know, there was one that came through the hatch, and they were from the Bay Area, like, Oakland kind of area, and they had said that they'd never played Stockton before, and the only reason that they came through and played this time was because they knew one of the guys in one of the other bands, and they got pulled in on the show. And I asked them, well, why don't you ever play here? And well, the reputation, you know? Like, Stockton has a bad reputation. It's not supposed to be a nice place to be. And I was so happy when they were like, but my experience has totally changed my mind. Like, it's a great experience, and I love this place, and I'm going to go home, and I'm going to tell all my friends that Stockton ain't that bad, you know? That's and go play there. And I love hearing that, because the reputation is definitely widespread. Yeah. And when you go on, like, Facebook, right, and you go into some of these, they have, like, the groups for, like, Stockton news and info kind of stuff. Anybody asks about Stockton in that group, and you have people from here that will comment and just badmouth it. Yeah. And that looks so bad when you have so many people from here bad-mouthing here. You know, it makes it look so bad. So it's nice when we can start trying to kind of turn that around a little bit and bring people in here and change their minds. And I think that if more people are willing to just kind of give it a shot. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I think within Stockton there's like some distress that you know leads to people who live here wanting to move away, wanting to badmouth Stockton. But I don't know, I do feel within like the music and arts community, there always has been kind of like a generally positive outlook. But I do feel like we used to have a better reputation with out-of-town bands before, and I feel like Stockton had this like deficit of venues for such a long time. Like after, like it used to be, you talk to a band from out of town, they're like, oh yeah, we played at Caffeine Den. Oh yeah, we played, and then we played at, we played at Blackwater. Like, these things were institutions, right? And then, as Blackwater was kind of, dying down, Mida got Plea for Peace, and that was open for, a few years, and a lot of bands came through and played at Plea for Peace from out of town, so a lot of people would have that. But then when Plea for Peace closed down, all of the venues since then have been very, temporary. And sometimes there would be a time when there were no venues. And so I feel like places for outside bands to come in and kind of like commingle with us, for a long time that's really been missing.
And I think that's one of the things that I do miss about like older Stockton. I know we have the Hatch now, which is like, you know, as far as it being a music venue, it's fairly new. And it does kind of have like Plea for Peace Center type vibes. But I think like most people in Stockton, you know, I'm kind of sad that we had missed, we had that kind of like gap in time. I feel like it kind of like pulled us backwards, and we're like trying to catch up now with like music in Stockton and stuff like that.
Well, I think like marketing has changed a lot as well since back then. You know, trying to get the word out about new venues and shows and what's going on seems to be more difficult because there's this we're going through a transitionary period where the younger kids, like, you know, I say that because I'm almost 40. So, you know, like, younger kids, they're like, you know, 19, 20, whatever. They're pretty hip to all the social media and that kind of stuff. So they seem to figure it out and find out about places quicker than some of the older people that are like 30 plus. We're still trying to figure out how to get involved in these circles and figure out what's going on, and it's like, oh, it's all on social media. Oh, okay, nobody puts out paper flyers anymore. Okay, you know. Well, so I think you know, this is something I've been talking to a lot of different venues about as well. Is trying to get the word out for the stuff that they're doing. Because even the Hatch, like, I go around and I talk to my peers, which are all over 30. And a lot of them don't know about it. And I'm like, it's been there for a few years now, and they've been doing stuff, like, every week, and, you know, like, they're doing stuff all the time. Go check them out. And it amazes me how many people don't know about it. And there's other venues like that as well people don't know about. And it's trying to figure out how to get the word out effectively to everybody. I think it used to be a lot easier than it is now.
Well, yeah, one thing that I was going to say about like marketing and I don't even want to say it's a generational divide. I definitely think that like there's different technology used by like the younger generation versus like, I'm guessing we're probably the same age if you're almost 40. But like it also has to do with like technology that's out there and what it allows. Like a lot of young people are using like TikTok and Instagram still, and those apps are global apps. Like the way those algorithms are built are not to feed you local information. They're meant to feed you anything from anywhere. And so if we're trying to build up a community locally, the way that people are consuming information, you know, no one reads like a local paper anymore. Our local paper isn't even printed here anymore. You know, no one goes on local like message boards like we used to have like before. The networks that are formed are not formed around local bubbles like they were because the algorithm has replaced that. Used to be you would go to your friend's MySpace page and in their top 8 there would be bands that were local bands because that was their friend in a local band. And you know, there was no algorithm. It was all based around your local community. But nowadays technology is like, it's moving at the speed of light, and it doesn't want you to form a local, it really doesn't want you to form a local bubble because that's too small for the way like TikTok or Instagram is thinking. And so there's that challenge for us where I'm guessing when we were in high school, we would be walking around and someone would hand us a physical flyer. And we would go, oh, tonight at, at Blackwater, I can go to that show. Cool. Or this weekend.
Find one on your car in the parking lot.
I'll ask my friend if I can get a ride, you know, or I'll ask my dad if he could pick me up afterwards. And that's the way it was because we didn't have access to everyone all at once. And I don't know what the answer to that is. That's why I want to build some technology thing that does think about like forming local communities, because I do think that the technologies that we have out there right now are fun toys, but they're not solving the problem of bringing people together in a physical space locally. But then how do you market that piece of technology that can do that? I don't know the answer to that yet, right?
Yeah.
And I also wonder, this might be a little bit like old man yelling at cloud, but the thing that I miss is like when I was in high school, everyone was starting a band. I don't see like high school bands anymore, so I'm like, do they? I wonder, like, are kids forming bands at the same rates that we are? And like, where are they? How come they're not playing at Blackwater or the Hatch or whatever?
Well, it's so funny because, you know, I've been doing this a long time too, you know, playing music and going out to shows and stuff, and you know, it was really interesting for me because I'm sitting there trying to get booked. Yeah. Right? And I'm trying to build a following for my music and my stuff, and I have a problem socializing a lot, you know, so same. Like, you know, it's kind of difficult to build a circle if you never go out and meet people. Yeah. But what I noticed, especially over, you know, the past few years, which I guess, you know, post-COVID, all of a sudden there's like these bands coming out, and it's like, you know, they've only been doing the thing for like a month, and they have these huge followings, like hundreds of freaking people, like 1,000 on the freaking the social media, and they're going out to playing their shows, and they have this huge amount of people that come out to their shows, and they're all like singing along with their words, and I'm like, how do you do that?
That's in Stockton?
That's in Stockton.
You gotta give me a list of bands.
They all went to high school together. Yeah. And they all just graduated high school, and now they're out doing the thing. They're all like 19 years old, barely able to drink. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah. I mean, that's how it was, though. When I was 19 and playing in like in a pop punk band, people came out to shows. We would have shows packed full of people, and it was so much fun. Oh yeah. And again, maybe this is just like getting, like, the reality of getting older is like your friends move away and have kids and have full-time jobs, and your crowd dies locally, and it's, you know, it's like I don't think I'll ever be like a national touring. I can't be a national touring musician. I've got a family, and I've got a job, and stuff like that, and so my joy is like playing here in Stockton locally and recording, and it's like, how do you as like an old person sustain that where it can be enjoyable for me? Like I play like 1 or 2 shows a year now, purposefully. I don't want to play too many shows, but at the same time, it's so hit or miss, you know? Yeah. Excuse me.
Yeah. I fully understand that. I'll play. I play as much as I can. But I do notice like those times where I have to take a step back because of life. I'll start losing people. Yeah. So the more I post, the more I go out and play, the more people start paying attention on a consistent basis. You know, and then it's like you take a step back for a few months, everybody forgets who you are. Yeah. But like I was saying, like there's a couple of these newer, I consider them newer bands. But there again, I mean, like they come out and they last a year, and then because they're young, they're figuring it out. So it's
my early bands also are the same. You know, it's a different band every year because you break up and reform with 2 of the people. And
and some of them they go off to college or they decide their life is going to go in a different direction, and there they go, and so the band falls apart. And you know, it's. When I see the kids come out and the band ends up lasting like 5 years, it's kind of like, rock out, guys. Yeah, you know, like you really stuck it through. Nice. But no, they are out there. They're still doing it. It's pretty awesome. My favorite is actually seeing the band kids come out and join and like start doing the jazz band thing. Oh, and stuff. That's really fun.
Yeah. Band kids are always very talented.
Definitely. Yeah. But back to your music. So you, right now, you are doing more solo stuff, or do you have a band that you play with?
It's kind of both. So currently, like I've been in the same band, playing with like the same people for a very long time, like maybe between 15 and 17 years with like one of my best friends, his name's Mike Gonzalez, and Oscar Mata, he plays drums, and Mike plays guitar. We've kind of been like the same band. We've kind of changed the name a little bit, but we've been called Los Beekeepers. And so that's like my core band. If I play a show, I want to play with those guys. And then a friend of mine who I met like about 12 years ago, he plays bass with us now, and he's been playing bass with us for a long time. So that's our core group. And we maybe don't practice as often. We practice whenever we get a show booked, and we play about 1 or 2 shows a year.
I got you.
But we get together all the time, and we record stuff, and you know, it's kind of under this Jerk Indie group of the same people that we've known since we were like 17. We all have like our own individual bands, so they come over like once a week, and we record like right here in this room. And we're working on a record for Oscar and Mike's other band with this guy Daniel. He's from a band called Filbert. He also is like a popular like tattoo artist here in town. So a lot of people who are listening might actually have tattoos from Daniel. So we've been working on that for a while, and that's fun. And that's kind of like what takes up like my musical time most of the time is, you know, doing stuff with the band when we can, mostly recording. And then as far as solo stuff goes, since we don't play shows very often and we have been working on this other project, on the side, like when I'm home alone, I'll start like working on new songs for the band. Sometimes when I write a new song, I'm like, this might not be right for the band, so I'm going to put it in this other pile where maybe I'll release it on my own solo. Or if I want to, like, I record a lot, so I had a song recently that will probably eventually be a Los Beekeepers song. We'll release it as the band after we write guitar parts and stuff to it, but I released it a few weeks ago under Angie Hemens, and that's just like my like solo release, I guess, for the year right now. Just because I like the way the demo came out, I was like, I think this is like something that I could use to release solo, but then kind of like spin that into a band song once we like get together and start writing stuff for the new record, once I have like a collection of songs ready.
Is that the Blemish?
Blemish, yeah, I sent you Blemish.
Yeah. So that'll be on the interview.
Okay, cool, awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I liked that song too. I listened to them this morning after you sent them to me. Yeah. They're both very good.
You could tell the difference. Like the Los Beekeepers is like the rock band, and then whatever I am doing solo is maybe a little bit more calm, more piano driven.
Yeah.
I don't know what, like, my idea is like solo is just like an experimental place to do things that might be a little unfinished or a little unsure of myself, and then the band is kind of like the fun, heavier rock thing.
I got you. Yeah, that makes sense. It definitely, I mean, for me, it was still the Los Beekeepers one that you sent me. What's that called? I Will Take the Blame.
Yeah.
That one, it was definitely more pumped up.
Yeah.
But it was still pretty mellow for, in terms of, like, a lot of the stuff that I listened to.
Yeah, it's not a punk song.
Yeah, it's like alternative indie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very influenced by two things, and it probably comes through. I'm very influenced by 90s rock, so like Third Eye Blind, I'm blanking on a lot, like just Counting Crows, like all of those bands, like 90s alternative. And I'm also very influenced by like Midwest emo type bands, so like American Football, the Get Up Kids, Saves the Day, kind of that like late 90s, early 2000, not quite pop punk like Blink-182 or New Found Glory, but also not like the emo bands that came after them that were like, you know, swoopy hair and stuff like that. So, you know, and it all kind of like meshes together in this like, you know, can be described as like indie rock type thing. But I don't really like the indie rock label because it's like, it's like too generic in a way. It's like, I like anything can be indie rock, you know, but like, I really like the, you know, Midwest emo type sound.
Okay.
And that's kind of like a goal with the sound that like we're creating with the band. So I don't mind that label. All
right. I've never heard of Midwestern emo.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a stacked like, it's a stacked terminology now too, because there's like two different versions of Midwest emo. There's like the original Midwest emo that inspired all the bands nowadays that are they're just called Midwest emo as well. And I like all those bands too, but they're like I would say they're like a more refined version of whatever it was happening before.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. I genres confuse me a lot of the time.
They're confusing.
Yeah, so I kind of go with the really basic.
Yeah.
Kind of like
indie rock, alternative.
Punk. People ask me about like my music and what genre I am, and I'm just like, listen to it and tell me. Like,
I can say it's probably the hardest to describe your own genre as an artist, because everyone's going to hear something different. Definitely. And like if you don't have like a general consensus from outside, it's hard to explain from the inside.
Right. Yeah. I had seen on your Instagram while I was being a stalker and scrolling through it.
Going through the archives.
I had seen that you were putting yourself out there as a visual artist or a visual designer or something.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you probably went pretty far back. So I went to college for graphic design.
Okay.
So I've always kind of had like a visual aspect. I think it went hand in hand with playing music. Like when I was in high school, I wanted to start a band and I wanted to like build websites and make flyers on my own. And so like I just started making art on the computer for that. And that led me to like eventually going to college after like a long time not going to college for like art. And where I got a degree in graphic design, but there's a lot of like fine arts and stuff like that involved with where I went. So that, I don't know, really helped inform me in a lot of ways. Also as a musician, there's really a lot of crossover for me with like graphic design and music. A lot of like similar concepts of like layout and contrast and a lot of these things that are like visual elements can be applied to songwriting. And I really love those aspects. And then after college, I moved to the Bay Area and started working for like tech companies. And so that's where I kind of like pivoted from just graphic design to what's called UX design. And that's kind of what I do now professionally is I design like apps and websites and stuff like that for the companies that I work for.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So you don't do any of that for like a private people, like
I don't really freelance. Like, if it was a fun enough project, I would. But I also don't like pass out business cards or anything like that anymore.
I got ya.
Or like offer my services as like a graphic designer or web designer or anything. There have been some people in town that I've helped a little bit here and there. Like if you know Jared Rustin, like I helped him with some website stuff a few years ago. I'm trying to think of
it's more like just personal favor kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I have my job, and my job is my job, and I'm not trying to do it like that much extra.
I got ya. That makes sense for sure.
But it's a helpful skill to have when it comes to like music stuff, because I can like I designed my own record cover for the Los Beekeepers record, and you know, I've built websites and stuff for us over the years and things like that.
And you were saying you do all of your own recording too, right?
Yeah. So I like Blemish. I recorded that all on my own. And I'm recording a couple bands right now. One is called Dog Dream. That's like all my friends are in that. Everyone in my band is also in Dog Dream.
Okay.
And this other band called Irrelevant Souls. They're more of kind of like I don't know how to describe them. They're like punk and Soundgarden.
They're kind of metal.
Yeah, there's something about them.
Metal.
Well, they have like the way that they write songs without the vocals is very like Audio Slave.
Yeah.
It's very like almost like Southern bluesy influenced rock. And then with Andy's vocals, he's like a metal screamer through and through.
Oh, yes. Especially when he takes his shirt off.
Yeah. Yeah. So they are this interesting meld. So I've been working with them on an album. And I play a few things on their album. Like I've been playing piano. And if you listen to their song that they released last year, I forget what it was called, but it's like their newest song. I played guitar on that song.
Okay.
So I like to, when it comes to like recording, that's when I like to work with other people, locally at least.
Sure.
And the Los Beekeepers stuff that I shared with you, I didn't record. That one was recorded with this guy named Ben Hirschfield.
Okay.
He's originally from Stockton. And he used to play in this band called Easily Amused here, like, back in the day. And then he really got into recording, and he works out in the Bay Area now. And he records, like, a lot of, like, I don't want to say, like, bigger bands. He definitely records some, like, nationally touring, especially in, like, the pop-punk area. But I know he recorded a couple tracks for this band called Against Me. Do you know of Against Me?
It's not ringing any bells right now.
Yeah,
no.
They're like a punk band.
Okay.
But yeah, he's got some really cool like credits to his name, and he also has just like he's like one of the best like recording engineers that I know.
Awesome.
And so we recorded our album called Total Bummer with him about 5 years ago now.
Okay.
And so that's what that Los Beekeeper song is from.
Nice. So you were saying that you're recording with Irrelevant Souls right now.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just another one of your like, I know you guys and I like your stuff, so I'm going to help you out here?
Yeah,
okay.
Definitely. Like I had met them a couple years, like 2 years ago, randomly at some event at Cast Iron. And they're just really nice people. Like, I went out and got coffee with Chowder, the guitarist, and, you know, they're just nice people. I wanted to help them out.
Yeah.
And so we recorded the single here at the house, and it came out really good. And so they wanted to record a whole album with me, and so we're working on that. The one thing is, since I do, like, work full-time, and I have, like, a lot of family obligations, I'm really slow with recording. So we've been working on their album, I think, since, like, the summer. And, like, Dog Dream, we've been working on their album for, like, a year.
Oh, wow.
Because it's, like, you know, you get together, like, for a couple hours every week, and then sometimes you have to skip a week because of, like, obligations and stuff like that. So, I'm really happy with, like, the way things are coming out. It just does take a long time, and so...
Sure, yeah.
I'm not really taking on new projects recording-wise. I'm trying to finish up the ones that I have in progress before I take on one or two more.
Definitely.
But I might start working with... Do you know Marzi?
Yes!
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm going to start working with Marzi on something, though. I'm going to break my rule of not starting anything until I finish something else yet, because... I'm excited to start her project.
Yeah. They have I love their writing.
Oh,
you know, like
she's such a great writer.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I dig it a lot. I've seen them a few times. Mm-hmm. You know, do their thing, and it's always just like
Yeah.
You're awesome. I love it.
I'm such a fan of the way they write.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. Awesome. So we're going to close it out.
Okay, cool.
One of the things that I end all of my podcasts with is words of wisdom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it always gets people off guard. But, so if you'd like to drop some words of wisdom on us.
Okay, words of wisdom for other musicians is make music for yourself that you love. Don't worry about how many people are going to listen to it. Like, if you can listen to it in your headphones all day long and enjoy it, like, then you're on the right track. So make it for yourself first, and then everything else will shine through. And don't ever stop making music. I get so sad when I hear people are like, oh, I haven't played in a while. I haven't played in 5 years, or I stopped writing songs. Like, never stop making music.
Heck yeah, good advice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Cool, of course. Thank you.
Yes, this was brilliant.
You're listening to Mudville Sounds. Hello?